You think that you're the descendant of Alexander the Great. If you're so proud of Alexander the Great, why don't you Hellenize? Why don't you do exactly as he did? If he is the role model, the perfect example of what a Macedonian should be, you should become Greek. Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. If you're new, my name is Bobby. Guys, this video will be for my Balkan viewers, for my Bulgarian brothers and sisters, for my Northern Macedonian brothers and sisters, and for my Greek brothers and sisters. So therefore, if you're here for the anti-vegan content, please make sure to tune in next time again. In the future, depending on how much content I will produce on the Macedonian question, I'm thinking about opening a second channel for that. Stay tuned for that as well. So now, whilst browsing the depths of the internet, I found a small channel on YouTube called the United Macedonian Diaspora with only 720 subscribers. They uploaded a video called Macedonian Languages Significance, Bulgaria's Ideology and Question of Western Balkans EU accession. It was a live stream over 1 hour and 50 minutes. Obviously, I'm not going to respond to the whole thing. However, at 1 hour and 23 minutes, there was a dialogue between the host and Victor A. Friedman that captured my attention. Victor A. Friedman, so you have a little bit of background information on that character as well, is basically a Jewish American linguist from Chicago who went to Macedonia back in the day of the Yugoslavian Republic, fell in love with the country, and since then feels it is his duty to defend Macedonianism. Let's have a look.
And you have 5 countries there. And it was unfortunate that out of the 5 countries, France was the only one that did not recognize Republic of Macedonia as the name, and obviously, you know.
What an absolute fantastic way to start this video. The French people did not accept the Republic of Macedonia. How come? So what we have here is a French-made map of 1914 encompassing the Macedonian region. We have Vardarska Macedonia, we have Pirinska Macedonia, and we have the Aegean part. When we scroll down, we can see the ethnicities. What do we have? Wow, big surprise. The majority is Bulgarian. You can see it in light green, followed by Russians, Albanians, Vlachs, Greeks and Turks. So it is obviously always the same story, but now the Macedonists will tell you, of course, that even the French people, 1914, had some sort of reason to lie about the ethnicity. They had no reason to say, hey, those guys are not Albanians, they are Macedonians. They had no reason to say, hey, those guys are not Turks, they are Macedonians. But of course, they had to rename the majority of the population, which was Macedonian, and they named them Bulgarian. Cool story, bro.
The frustration that we faced of working so hard to get 140 countries to recognize Macedonia and then going, back. But I think we've digressed perhaps from the topic.
Obviously, the French don't agree with you because they have the historical proof.
Things that have been brought up is, and I want to hopefully end on a positive note, Victor, regarding this, but few things. One is Simon Zdravevsky from Melbourne, Australia, wanted to know regarding there's this claim that there's no such evidence of the ancient Macedonian language.
Oh, what an outrageous claim. Or is it simply historical fact? Everybody knows that we don't have any written records about the ancient Macedon language.
Know of, or have there been any studies between, correlation between the current Macedonian language and possible links to a language from ancient Macedonia?
Right.
But man, how could there be? Do you really believe what you're saying? Are you listening to yourself? How could there be a relation if we are speaking a Slavic language?
Okay, so this is a very
wow.
Yeah. So we do have scattered words in ancient Macedonian, the language of Alexander, so to speak. They are individual words in glossaries, lexicons, proper names, this kind of thing.
Oh, proper names as well. Do you by any chance have Alexander's name too? Can you recollect what his name was? Was it Alexander or was it Alexandros?
So there's a Macedonian name, Berenike.
Yes, sounds very Slavic.
Nike means the bringer of victory. Now the Nike is exactly ancient Greek, Nike, right? But the Beri with a B is not Greek, because the Greek would have been Perinike, ancient Greek, Perinike.
Wow, there you go. Ancient Macedonia debunked.
Which is now Perinike, right? So it means that whatever kind of language ancient Macedonian was, and the Indo-European word for carry or bear, English bear is the same root, is bear with an aspiration. So the fact that Macedonian has Berinike and ancient Greek would have been Perinike, leads us to think that
you are grasping at straws. It is always the same. Hey, let's examine Slavic languages. Let's take a simple example. Serbs say sunce. Northern Macedonians say sonce. Bulgarians say slince. What did we prove with this experiment? Obviously, ancient Greek and ancient Macedon are two separate languages, and therefore ancient Macedonian is related to Northern Macedonian Slavic. Yes.
And also, ancient Macedonian, from the scraps that we have, we've only got lexical items, words. A third of them are clearly not Indo-European. They're from the people who were there before the Macedonians came, because the Macedonians probably spoke an Indo-European language. A third of their vocabulary is clearly Indo-European and not Greek, and a third is Greek.
All right, so now we heard that the Macedonian tribe spoke Greek. However, they used other words as well. Let's see where he takes this argument.
What do we do? And by the way, 40% of ancient Greek vocabulary is not Greek. 40% of ancient Greek vocabulary was borrowed from the languages of the people they conquered.
All right, thank you for making my point. So as you can see, clearly all of those ancient Greek tribes spoke Greek, however, mixed with the regional dialects. Obviously, like any other civilization did. The same applies to the Slavs, the same applies to Germanic tribes, etc. You name it. So now that you know this, you will have to admit that there is nothing special or separate about the ancient Macedonians. As we know very well, the Macedonians, ancient Macedonians, competed at the Olympic Games. The Olympic Games were exclusive for the Greeks. So what did we establish now, Professor? We just learned that the ancient Greeks spoke regional dialects, used words of the people that they conquered. We know very well that the Greeks had different states. What about the Spartans? Why are they not their own country? Wow.
They invaded the Hellenic Peninsula. Nobody disputes that. What people dispute is whether they were Anatolians or, pre-Anatolian. It's not our problem.
No, they were North Macedonian Slavs.
So ancient Macedonian then consists of these three layers: not Indo-European, Indo-European but not Greek, and Greek. So the question is ancient Macedonian an Indo-European language that, together with Greek, split off from the rest of Indo-European and then separated, or did it separate from Indo-European earlier so that it was separate from Greek from Hellenic, as we call it, from the get-go? Or some people want to say it was a Greek dialect. Well, the people who want to say it was a Greek dialect, the best evidence they have is a curse tablet that was found a few decades ago, but it dates from the 4th century. It dates from the period when Macedonians were giving up their language and speaking Greek. and it's in a
I
dialect.
really love listening to American telling me about my own country and seeing my fellow countrymen here in the background sitting, smirking and inhaling the wisdom of this professor. You need somebody to tell you what you are. You don't even see how ridiculous this is. Obviously, you had different dialects. Obviously, you had different tribes. The question becomes, who was Alexander? This must be your measurement. This is your national hero. You think that you're the descendant of Alexander the Great. If you're so proud of Alexander the Great, why don't you Hellenize? Why don't you do exactly as he did? If he is the role model, the perfect example of what a Macedonian should be, you should become Greek. The question that the professor is addressing here are not addressed to the other Greek states. How come? Think about it logically. You won't disagree if I say that the Spartans or the Athenians were Greek. The same logic has to be congruent and apply to the Macedonians.
Like a Doric dialect, a weird one. But it doesn't tell us anything about ancient Macedonian. And the Greeks who bring this up, it's just, they don't understand. It's like, that's not ancient Macedonian. Ancient Macedonian was an Indo-European language. It was different from Greek. We don't know.
What we do know, however, is that the Greeks understood the Macedonians. We have records of that. Of course, we have documents as well where the Greeks say that the Macedonians are barbarians. However, that doesn't change the fact that the Macedonians competed at the Olympic Games. That doesn't change the fact that Macedonia, Alexander, all of that happened 1,400 years before Tsar Samuel. But that is, of course, another topic for another video.
How closely related it was to Greek, because we don't have a single sentence in this language. We don't
But somehow you do know.
how the verbs ended. We don't know what the case forms were. All we have are these isolated lexical items. Anyway, now, Slavic speakers come to the region in the 6th and 7th centuries of the Common Era. And they bring their language with them, and that language is what today we call Common Slavic. It was...
So with that, clearly you will have to admit that ancient Macedonian wasn't Slavic. I think we agree here.
A language that was spoken all over what is today Eastern Europe. Very widespread. And gradually it separates into dialects in the same way that Latin separated into dialects and became the Romance languages. Spanish is not Latin. French is not Latin, right? Okay. Modern Macedonian is not ancient Macedonian.
How do you come to that conclusion? You say that Spanish is not Latin. It is a Latin-based language. It is not Latin. I agree. The same applies to France. Yet again, I agree. How do you draw the parallel now and base the Macedonian language on ancient Macedonian? Obviously, that is not the argument here. If anything, the newly founded language called Macedonian in 1944 is based on Old Slavic.
Now, in the case of French and Spanish, they are descended from Latin, which itself was Italic. In the case of modern Macedonian, it is descended from Common Slavic in the same way that Bulgarian and Serbian and Croatian and Russian and Belarus. But the thing is,
he's all over the place.
French is no more Italian than Bulgarian is Macedonian. They have common ancestors. That's not the same thing, right?
Yeah, that's not the same thing, right? But where was Bulgarian created? Wasn't that in Ohrid, Professor? Wasn't that in modern-day Macedonia? Wouldn't that be enough evidence to say that those people spoke a Bulgarian dialect?
My brother isn't my father.
Oh, wow, yes!
You know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean. That makes sense.
So that's the analogy we need here. And
that's the analogy we need here. My brother is not my father. Speak after me. Repeat. My brother is not my father. This is the analogy we need here.
Modern Macedonian, the name Macedonian was taken from the territory in the same way that Bulgarian, Bulgar, was taken from a Turkic-speaking tribe.
Look how derogatory he says that, right? It is taken from a Turkic tribe. It is always the same. He wants to have the cake, but eat it too. Now he's gonna say they just have a Turkic name. At the same time, they want to claim that the Bulgarians are Turkish. At the same time, they want to claim that the Macedonians took the name from the territory, but just moments after, out of a sudden, we do have ancient Macedonian blood. There you go, FYROM logic.
That conquered the Slavic speakers of Bulgaria. Their ethnonym is Turkic, not Slavic.
Nobody disagrees with that.
Although they speak a Slavic language, you know, there's a Turkic text.
They speak a Slavic language, just a Slavic language. Totally random, right? It's not as if they created Cyrillic. It's not like they created our alphabet. It's not as if they created our language.
Teachers of Turkish.
Language.
Teachers of Turkish has a sentence in it that goes like this. Bulgarlar Türktür. Bunları İslav yapan dildir. Which means the Bulgars are Turks. It is the language which makes them Slav.
See what a hypocrite. Those people are children of the lie. As I said, on the one hand, he wants to say, hey, the Bulgarians, they speak a Slavic language. The Bulgarians are Slavs. They simply have a regional name from the Turkic people. But then all of a sudden, he likes to quote Turks, for whatever reason, that told him that Bulgarians are actually Turkic. Hypocrite.
The point is, names change. French, right? The name of the French language is Germanic.
Yes, Franken.
It's not Romance. It's not Latin, right?
But see, yet again, hypocrite. The French are French, have a Germanic name, still are French. The Bulgarian are Slavs, have a Turkic name. But they all of a sudden are Turkish.
And they're not Gauls either, you know. So it's like we have to get away from this 19th century nonsense.
Yes, please, let's get out of this Yugoslav mind state.
That names are somehow genetic. They're not.
Names are not genetic, but when we talk about Macedonia, out of a sudden it is genetic. Out of a sudden we are the ancient Macedons. This is a double standard. Hypocrite.
They shift, they move around.
As a just to follow up on this, and as a linguist, and thank you very much for bringing that up, would you say that Thracian, which would have been close to ancient Macedonian perhaps at the time, has similarities?
Sure, now we're gonna talk about the Thracians, but we're gonna ignore completely that the Bulgarians are descendants of the Thracians. We're gonna ignore completely that we are descendants of the Thracians, us little northern Macedonians. Alright guys, but this is it for today's reaction video. This was the first time that I react to the Macedonian question. If you liked this video, leave it a thumbs up, share it with your friends. You know how it is, the algorithm always suppresses my videos. It happened to my first Macedonia video as well. It got shadow banned. Many fellow countrymen started reporting my video and therefore it got shadow banned, so other people cannot see it. This is how convicted we are in our truth, that we don't want to see other people discussing this topic openly, freely on the internet. The last time I checked, we still had free speech, but hey, this is just me. Therefore, please make sure to share this video with your friends, with your Greek friends, Northern Macedonian friends, Bulgarian friends, you name it, so we can have an open discussion in the comments. That being said, dependent on the engagement rate in this video, I'm thinking about opening a second channel exclusively for this topic. Let me know in the comment section as well what you think about this idea. On that note, guys, if you have other videos concerning that topic that you want me to react to, please let me know. Until then, may God bless you all. Much love and peace.